Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to unpack a really fascinating workplace scenario involving two employees, Hita Kai and Hishika Hai. We're going to use their story to understand the very real boundaries of workplace policy, everyday fairness, and managerial conduct. Now, just to be clear right off the bat, we're exploring potential policy areas today, not declaring definitive legal proof of any violations. But, if you've ever wondered where the exact line is drawn between a minor workplace annoyance and a massive organizational liability, well, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to break down a specific, highly destructive pattern of behavior, examine how the surrounding context really amplifies the risk, and then look at the cascading effects of how a manager responds. Okay, so let's dive right into their baseline behavior, because things are wildly out of balance here. Hiyataka and Hishika have essentially stopped talking to their team. Instead, they just spend their days backbiting, constantly reporting on each other, and, get this, completing a staggering 5% of their assigned work. I mean, 5%. They are essentially getting paid to be full-time workplace detectives instead of doing their actual jobs. So this isn't just some simple personality clash, right? It's an absolute drain on company resources. To really grasp the gravity of this, here's a quick roadmap of what we'll cover. Number 1, the core problem. 2, department risks. 3, high-stakes scenarios. 4, managerial favoritism. And 5, a really relatable classroom analogy. Starting with Section 1, the core problem regarding Hita Kai and Hishika Hai. At a basic level, their constant negativity, refusing to cooperate, and snooping on each other's screens raise immediate red flags across professional behavior, acceptable use, and teamwork policies. When workplace conflict reaches this level of dysfunction, it flirts dangerously with harassment and anti-bullying policies. But honestly, that is just the baseline. Moving to Section 2, department risks and the impact of context. What's super interesting here is that their behavior stays exactly the same, but the actual risk to the company skyrockets depending on where they work. Let's imagine for a second they work in HR. Peering at each other's screens isn't just an annoyance anymore, it's a massive confidentiality risk. I mean, they could be exposing highly sensitive, unauthorized data. We're talking employee complaints, salaries, disciplinary records, medical information, or even private ongoing investigations. If Hitak notices information about another employee's complaint on Hishika's screen and reports it, he is likely violating some very strict need-to-know confidentiality rules. Now, what if they work in a customer chat process? The expected daily target is, say, 100 customer chats, but Hitak and Hishika, they're heading 5. Management needs to immediately investigate the severe productivity and quality violations happening here. These two are completely abandoning customer service standards because they're wasting all their time monitoring their coworkers. And think about this. If another employee handles only 5 chats and gets an immediate warning, but these two face no consequences, well, you've just birthed a massive fairness issue. And we see a nearly identical structural breakdown if they're in a call process. Let's say the target is 50 calls handled. Hitak handles 3. Hishika handles 4. Instead of answering the phones, they are literally just watching each other and complaining. A competent manager shouldn't be playing referee. They should be asking why these employees are missing their targets by such massive margins, rather than focusing on who complained about the other person first. Performance management policies exist to address exactly this kind of catastrophic drop in productivity. Which brings us to Section 3, high stakes in IT, operations, and leadership. When you put these two into roles with higher access, the danger completely multiplies. If they work in IT or operations, they probably have elevated access to sensitive systems. And this forces us to ask a vital question. Was the employee actually authorized to access or view this information? Because having technical access definitely does not grant permission to snoop. If Hitaka is watching Hishika's screen and sees passwords, customer databases, or confidential business info, the company now has a full-blown information security incident to investigate. They have to figure out if data was accessed, copied, or disclosed inappropriately. And it escalates even further if one or both of them are in leadership, because leaders absolutely must model behavior. If Hitatak is a team lead and removes a warning for his friend Hishika while punishing another employee for the exact same mistake, that creates a toxic perception of double standards. It totally violates fair treatment and conflict of interest policies. And here's the kicker. Even if favoritism wasn't the explicit intention, just the appearance of unfair treatment will instantly destroy your team's trust. Section 4, managerial favoritism, the real organizational liability. So this right here is really the climax of our explainer. The behavior of these two employees is obviously bad, but the critical failure point is the manager who repeatedly defends them, takes their side when they're clearly wrong, and deliberately revokes their warning letters while actively punishing others for similar or even less serious behavior. Just look at the stark differences between a regular employee and our duo. Make a similar mistake, the other employee gets a warning, they get none. Have poor performance? Action is taken against the other employee, but for them, nothing. Inappropriate behavior? The regular employee gets a warning, while theirs is actively removed. Now, it is perfectly fine for a manager to support and like their employees, but a documented, repeated pattern of unequal treatment like this across performance, behavior, and complaints, that easily justifies an internal review of that manager's fairness, consistency, and decision-making. In this scenario, the manager becomes the biggest risk.
Section 5. The classroom analogy, simplifying systemic fairness. To distill all these complex HR compliance jargon terms down to their absolute essence, let's just look at a really simple analogy. This strips away the corporate context, so we can just see the bare mechanics of systemic fairness and exactly how it breaks down. Imagine a classroom where everyone has the exact same rule regarding homework. Students A, B, C, and D all break the rule, and they rightfully receive a punishment. But look at student E, representing Hayataka and Hishika. They break the rule repeatedly. They don't do their work, they complain, they disrupt everything. And then, the teacher removes student E's punishment every single time. The problem here is no longer just about student E making a mistake, right? The core system of fairness orchestrated by the teacher is entirely broken.
So the single most crucial point to take away from this explainer is that healthy workplace policy isn't just about preventing bad behavior from individual employees. It's about constantly asking this singular provocative question to ensure absolute consistency across your entire organization. Are the same rules being applied to everyone? Because if your answer to that question is no, well, you don't just have a difficult employee problem, you have a systemic management problem. So think about your own workplace. When the pressure is on and mistakes are inevitably made, are the rules truly blind, or does the scale tip depending on exactly who is standing in front of the manager?